Story 1. Fast Food Ghost. It seems that this particular fast food restaurant in our small town was built on the foundation of what was once a theater. When the theater burned to the ground, the story goes that there were 2 children and an old man who died in the fire. The man died trying to save the children. Many staff have reported that they have heard things banging around in the basement. Some have seen things move by themselves, like coffee cups being hurled across the room by unseen hands. On one occasion, an old man came in out of the rain and went into the bathroom. This was not an unusual event, as many street people used the bathrooms at this store. What was weird about this time was that no one ever saw him leave. When the manager went in to check on him, all she saw was his watery footprints going in, but never turning around and leaving. There were no windows in this man's room. There was no way for him to leave without coming back through the restaurant. If you ask corporate, they'll tell you that this is not a true story. But if you ask anyone who has witnessed the incidents in this restaurant, or have worked in this restaurant, they'll tell you they're a believer. Story 2. The Dentist. Several years back, I was at my mom's house. I live next door to her. When this white car pulls into the driveway, we weren't expecting anyone, so I assumed they got lost and needed directions. I went to the door. A woman in her 50s or 60s got out of the car, along with a young girl of maybe 10 years old. Surprised, because I expected the kid to stay in the car and just have the woman ask for directions. I open the door, and the woman kind of nudges the girl towards me, both with big smiles on their faces. I said, "Hello, what can I help you with?" She asked if I was Jake, and I said yes. She told me that they went to a neighbor's house looking for me, and they pointed her to our house. They just kind of stared at me expectantly, like I was supposed to know the girl and be happy to see her. When I didn't react, the woman told me they were here to see the dentist. No dentists live here. It's a small ranch-style house in a fairly rural neighborhood. No dentist here, not anywhere near us. The woman and the girl just kept smiling. They didn't look confused. They just kept saying, "Are you sure?" Finally, they left, and later I asked the neighbor who had directed them to our house, and she said that she never told the woman my name, that the woman asked for me specifically. This has always kind of haunted me. I really feel like I was supposed to know that girl. I honestly started to wonder if maybe I was going a bit nuts and gave a child up for adoption that I didn't remember. It was feeling that strange. My mom firmly believes that that girl will return someday and tell me what this was all about. I think about this frequently. I wonder what they really wanted. Story 3. Teacups. I do not feel like we had a resident ghost. Rather, it was more like a random visits from spirits that were just passing through. Whenever my twin sister and I would hear disembodied voices or experience anything else unusual. My father was the only other person in the family who admitted to seeing a ghost when he was very young. My younger sister, brother, and my mother weren't at all interested in focusing on the subject, and it's doubtful they have ever listened to any of the stories we have shared about our experiences. This particular set of occurrences took place after our family had split up due to my parents' divorce, and our younger sister and older brother had both married and left home, leaving just myself, my twin sister, and our mother in the place by ourselves. My sister and I shared a bedroom with twin beds. At that time, I had been collecting china teacups, some antique, some not. I had about 9 of them in a wooden display shelf. The shelf had 3 shelves, and it hung on the wall right above my bed. I enjoyed arranging and changing the cups occasionally, since I had more cups collected than I had room to display all at once. I was lying in bed one night, just beginning to doze, but not quite asleep yet, when suddenly I felt a presence of 2 females floating above me, looking at my teacups. They didn't seem to pay attention to me or anything else in the room. They just spoke to each other. The conversation went as follows. "Oh, look at that," said one of the spirits. "Oh, isn't that cute?" said the other one. This, of course, snapped me out of my sleep, and I muttered, "Well, thanks a lot." But by that time, I no longer felt their presence. The rest of the night was uneventful, and I managed to get to sleep soon after. The other part of the story takes place not long after. I remember entering my bedroom one afternoon and found my wooden display shelf lying on my pillow, with the teacups sitting neatly arranged on my bedspread below it. Now, I grew up in California, where earthquakes were just about an everyday occurrence. But that sort of shaking would have simply spilled the rack and its contents randomly all over the bed and onto the floor, if it had been strong enough to knock things off the wall. And there had been no such earthquake that day. Thinking my mother might have come into my room dusting, and perhaps left the rack and cups on my bed, I called downstairs and asked if she had been in there, to which she replied no. My twin was not at home at the time. What else could I do? I replaced my collection back on the wall, and it was never again bothered in that manner. I still to this day wonder who found them so interesting, and why did they take the whole display down and spread it all over my bed? It genuinely puzzles me. Story 4. Women at Work. I started a new job as a special patrolman in a large building. I patrolled the building at night from 4 p.m. to midnight. The first 6 months were quiet. We checked the floors with a flashlight. One night, I took a meal break at 8 p.m. I went to the second floor medical lunchroom. It overlooks the medical clerical department. I walk into the lunchroom, and one of the porters was eating his meal. I walked to one of the tables in the room. I look up and saw a small woman walking across the doorway. I walked to the doorway to check. The building was closed, and no one should be in the building without security knowing. The lights were off. I walk into the room, walk through, and there is no one there. I went back to the lunchroom to eat. As I was eating, the porter in the room was sitting across from me. We talked, and then he said, "Wow, it feels like someone pushed my chair." We laughed, and he said, "There must be a ghost in here." We finished our meal break, went back to work. Around 11 p.m., my sergeant told me to give a final check of the medical floor. I went up to the floor. The lights were out. I walked into the lunch area. It was freezing cold, but the heat was on. I noted this in my book, and then I walked into the clerical department. It was also cold. I walked through, and a window was open, and the radio on the desk was on. It was playing a disco song. I closed the window, turned off the radio, and radioed my sergeant on my walkie to find out if anyone was on that floor after I checked it the first time. He said no, No one's been on that floor after you took your meal up there. I thought to myself, well, who opened the door and who put on the radio? I'd finished checking the floor. I walked into the waiting area, and the windows were open, and the cushions on the couch were on the floor. I closed the window, picked up the cushions, and walked back through the doctor's office. I walked into the x-ray room, and as I was walking out, the x-ray machine started moving side to side. I radioed my sergeant to ask him how to shut it off. He said, "I'll be right there. Wait there." The machine stopped moving. My sergeant walked into the room. He checked the power. The machine was powered off. He then checked the main power source, and it was also off. I walked out of the room, and my sergeant told me, a lot of strange stuff happens in this place. Maybe it's a ghost." I went and finished the floor, and the sergeant left. I went into the lab area. All the doors were open. They should be locked and closed. And then I went into the examining rooms. The windows were all open. These windows are shut and locked every single day. I finished the floor, went to the elevator, and waited. As I waited, I saw the figure of a small woman walking by the medical entrance. I went back to the medical department to take a look. I called out, "Is anyone here?" I heard someone call back, "Sarah!" It was a woman's voice. I called back, "Who are you? No one should be in here. Do you need help?" No one answered me again. I radioed for backup. My sergeant and another security guard came up. We walked the floor. We found the windows open again, the same ones I had just closed. We found no one there. We locked the floor off, noted everything that happened, and went home. The next night, everyone that had worked nights before had a story about something strange that had happened to them on the same floor. I'd like to know who Sarah is. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the stories. If you did, hit that subscribe button and give me a thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. Bye.